Rex is a really cool project that's decentralizing the real estate listing industry. I sat down with Stephen King, not the famous author, one of the team members of Rex, and we discuss how Rex works and the future of the cryptocurrency industry. Enjoy. All right, so Stephen, could you explain just in kind of a short paragraph how the current real estate listings work?
In a short paragraph, well, I will do my best. So right now, at least in the United States, if you're going to upload a residential listing, you go on to your local multiple listing service, and each state has at least one multiple listing service that's owned by a brokerage firm, or maybe a couple of brokerage firms. And what you do is you pay an annual subscription, and you upload your data, and then they publish it out to other brokers. And you have to be a broker to be a member, and you have to be a broker to be able to view the information. And then in terms of where it goes from there, the local multiple listing services have made deals with companies like Zillow and Realtor.com. So as soon as that data goes to MLS, it gets pushed out to these national platforms. On the commercial level, it's something called LoopNet and CoStar, which essentially is like Zillow, just for the commercial industry. And that's a subscription-based model.
All right, so it sounds like a kind of a closed system. So what is Rex doing to kind of disrupt that industry?
So we are creating a multi-layered real estate protocol that's basically going to connect vendors, buyers, and sellers worldwide, and then also later giving them the ability to transact. So what does that mean on a basic level? It basically means we're creating a global database and we're crowdsourcing the information. So we're going out to people and we're saying, look, we're going to incentivize you to participate in this database by compensating you, and you're going to have skin in the game by essentially owning these tokens. It also means that we're building the technical infrastructure where real estate will be able to be transacted one day using these cryptographic tools. And then the last level that we're going to implement is something called the tokenization of real estate assets. And essentially, we're just taking a building and fractionalizing it into tokens. So the average person could own, I don't know, 5% of a building, or they could own a couple $100 worth of a building.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. To back up a little bit, could you go into a little bit more detail how the crowdsourcing works? What are people doing with that? Are they taking pictures of houses or just listing addresses that are for sale? How does that work?
So we've got a couple of different ways we're doing this. So if you are selling your house or you're selling an office building, if you're a broker, what you do is you'd go to Rex and you would get verified. You'd sign up and create a profile. And then once you're verified, for every listing that you upload, you get what's called a listing reward. So it's going to be somewhere around 15 Rex. So you can take these Rex tokens, you can use them to access other features on the platform, like sponsoring a market, broker profiles, a couple other things, or you can send them to an exchange and exchange it for fiat currency. We have something called it's called the Rex spam filter, and essentially what that is when anybody signs up for Rex, we've got a system in place where we weed out all the spam, all the old listings to the best of our ability. But we're trying to localize that on a per city and per town basis. So let's say, Brian, you're in Tennessee, right? So you're in Nashville. So let's say that you're going through our database and you're saying, okay, a lot of these listings that I'm going through are old, or this could be a better database. So you go through and all of a sudden you create this feed, and people that and your feed is better than Rex's feed. So you start to accrue a following in your area. So you all of a sudden you have 5,000 people that when they search Nashville or Tennessee in general, they subscribe to only your feed. So those results are the ones that you chose. Now all of a sudden you can monetize that. You can charge to promote listings, and you can feature properties and do a number of other things. And we're using that same sort of crowdsource model and local model on the comparable properties basis. So, who's better to see if a property sold between, a certain date, or if it's on the market or off the market, than somebody that's actually living there. So the incentive program there is to just accrue a following, and as soon as you do that, you can monetize it on a very individualized basis.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really interesting. I might get myself into the real estate game with that. I don't know. But no, you had mentioned earlier in your kind of phase 3 or whatever that the concept of perhaps owning a share in a building that's renting out space or something. Could you go a little bit more into that, more detail into that?
Yeah. So an example of that I like to use is the Chrysler Building in New York. So it's got a $3 billion market cap, and it's owned by the Abu Dhabi Group. And so just imagine that you have $3 billion today. So you go and you purchase the Chrysler Building. And to do that, what you do is you create a DApp, a decentralized application, and you would establish a custodian, right? Somebody to actually purchase the building, document title, do the brokerage, the legal, all the managerial tasks. And then so you go out and you create this DApp, and you essentially sell tokens in exchange for dollars so you can purchase the building. So with a $3 billion market cap, let's say you create 3 billion Chrysler tokens that are valued at $1 each, and you sell those out and you token sale them, and then anybody in the world can go and buy up these tokens. And essentially what they have is they've got fractionalized ownership now in the Chrysler Building that's managed by this custodian that you've established. So you could create fees, but the only way that your custodian gets paid is if you hit certain benchmarks. You hit leasing benchmarks, you hit legal benchmarks, et cetera, et cetera.
And all those benchmarks are encoded into the DApp, so it's all in the blockchain as well. Is that correct?
Correct, exactly. So it's a way to instantly create liquidity in real estate. I mean, you'd have an instant value of a building because it would be traded just like a share of Apple stock is traded.
So, so you mentioned dApps. Could you give a quick overview for people that may not know about what a DApp is?
Yeah, so a DApp is a decentralized application, and you can think of this as, again, Apple. So they've got the App Store where people can go and they can create any kind of an application they want, stock ticker, a calculator, you name it, and you can submit it to Apple, and then Apple has to approve this application, and everything is very centralized, and it's within the Apple ecosystem. A DApp is sort of taking that idea but decentralizing the whole process through something like Ethereum, or there's a couple of different chains now, even through Bitcoin you can do this. But you create an idea or an application that is not siloing information, and it's essentially open source. It may not be 100% open source, but the software is viewable, and you can submit pull requests, and you can do a number of other things. So it's sort of like an application, but just on a much more relaxed level, and on a more level playing field, I guess is the best way I could put it.
So how far along into your roadmap are you in development, and what is the roadmap going forward for Rex?
So we've got sort of a pre-alpha put together that we're going to release before our token sale next month, and our roadmap is to release that, hold our token sale, and then have our 1.0, if you will, released of the multiple listing service by January of 2018. So in about 6 months after the token sale. Following the token sale, we've got a couple of steps to scale the database. We're sort of focused on the United States and Australia, and we're going to expand out from there. We're having some conversations in China, Switzerland, and Brazil. That will be about a 1-year process. So from January 2018 to January 2019, we'll be scaling the database and bringing on ambassadors in each country. And then around January of 2019, right, 18 to 19, we're going to be implementing some of these use case transactions. So escrow services, things that are very basic to get both regulation and people comfortable with transacting something like real estate on the blockchain. And then about another, I would say, 8 to 12 months after that, we'll be getting into the actual tokenization of real estate. So we figure that by laying those steps, by starting with data and then expanding into contraction or contracts, and then going into the tokenized aspect, we're paving a path with both regulation and user adoption.
Yeah, that sounds pretty like a pretty logical roadmap. So one thing I like to ask everybody is kind of a brief version of their personal story. What brought you to this project, and what exactly is your role on the team, and what's your background in?
Sure. Yeah. So what brought me to this project is my background is in real estate, but I've always been sort of tinkering with technology. My dad's an architect and an engineer turned developer, so I've been around construction sites since I was like 5 years old. And I was working with him in 2012, and we're a very small firm, and we were paying like $10,000 a year for access to listing data. So I started learning Objective-C and then eventually Swift, and I built this application that would basically scrape the internet and pull real estate data into this database that we built and sort of give us a competitive edge and try to cut down on our overhead. And I learned, I was naive at the time, but there's a lot of end user licensing agreements that don't want you taking data. So I shut that down, and sort of serendipitously, I came across Vitalik's white paper with Ethereum, which also led me into IPFS. And it was like a light bulb went off, like, all right, this is the way the internet and real estate data in particular could be disseminated and affordable for that matter. So I met Russell, who's he's an ex-punk rocker, genius of a guy who's down in Sydney, and he was kind of playing around and tinkering with some stuff in the residential industry. So we got together and we decided, hey, this could be this could work well on a global scale. So we built the proof of concept, IPFS and Ethereum were working together, and we were able to raise some seed capital in Shanghai at DevCon 2 with a great investor, and now we're just trying to get the thing built.
That's really cool. So what are your views on kind of the cryptocurrency sphere in general?
I think I'm bullish on it. I'm bullish on tokenization in general. I think it's giving the opportunity to people to build ideas that if you tried to do on your own, or if you didn't have access to capital, if you're not in Silicon Valley, if you're in different parts of the world, now all of a sudden, if you've got talent and you've got a good idea, you can put money together and you can build this out. And I think that this is going to be, the next couple of years are going to be super exciting. I mean, the innovation that's already coming out is, you're in it, you see it every day. It's like every day you wake up and you're like, you see something new and you're like, wow, somebody thought of, putting this together, and tying these different concepts. So it's very interesting. And I think that, Ethereum and the blockchain in general but they're going to continue to revolutionize the real estate industry, the technology industry, and many more thereafter.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. So for someone viewing right now, maybe they even they think it's a really cool project. Maybe they even own some property that they want to kind of get in on a beta or something. What's the best way to follow the team's progress, to get involved if they want to? Where do you guys hang out online, basically?
Yeah, so we have a Slack channel. If you go to rexmls.com, you can you'll see our Slack, you'll see our white paper, and you can follow our blog. And then we're also on Twitter at rexmls, and then our email support at rexmls.com.
There you have it. Check out rexmls.com. Follow them on Twitter and on Slack. Really cool people, really cool project. While you're here, if you've got some more time, check out a few of my other interviews with innovators in the space of cryptocurrency and the blockchain. Thanks.